sometimes one drawing can become quite a different drawing. Maybe it's because I developed a hand tremor, a very bad hand tremor, or maybe I drew this one on driveway cobblestones, but no. So, 5 years ago, well, having my constitutional on the porcelain throne of our first floor bathroom, the walls of which are covered with maps, I was looking at the Colorado map, and I had a magnifying lens hanging from a long piece of yarn and thumbtacks, and I thought, So I ran the yarn from here down to there. This is a map of Colorado, by the way, not New Jersey, not Alaska. And I thought, wow, that's a really cool line. I wonder if I could hike that. And for me, 5 years ago, I had never hiked further than 7 miles, and I had backpacked all of maybe 5 nights, one at a time. It was like somebody saying, oh, it'd be really cool to canoe the North Atlantic. And I kind of put the thought away, other than every time I used the downstairs bathroom, which was probably at least twice a day, and pondered my yarn-drawn diagonal transect. Then 2.5 years ago, in January of 2020, my brother and his wife, they came to see us one Sunday afternoon, and my brother and I went for a walk around the park, and something possessed me, and I said to my brother, I'm thinking of walking diagonally across Colorado. And I'm like, I know. And my brother goes, you can't do that. That's 700 miles. And you're a woman, and you're going to be assaulted, and you're not in shape for it, and you don't have any knowledge. You'd have no idea what you're doing. You're going to get hurt. Don't do it. I was like, well, what do you do when your big brother tells you not to do something? You do it. So I got fit and took outdoor wilderness survival classes and wilderness first aid. And I thought, I'll just start in the corner and see how far I get, one day at a time. And I was terrified. I was particularly terrified of sleeping alone in a tent at night, because as women we're taught that's very, very dangerous. So I started down at the Oklahoma-Kansas corner in May of 2020, 3 days after the statewide COVID travel ban was lifted. And each day I walked about 14 miles. And you can't just walk diagonally in this state or in this country or in this world. Everything's very right-angled. You're supposed to stay in your box. You're supposed to go either north-south or east-west. And if you're a Democrat, you're not supposed to talk to Republicans. If you're an evangelical, you're not supposed to talk to Buddhists or atheists, and vice versa. And I walked across the state, and I talked to everybody, and I went diagonal. And I got to Pikes Peak, and I thought, wow, I've walked to Pikes Peak. That was where I grew up as a kid. And I kept going one day at a time. And finally, in August of 2020, I made it up here. And there was a reason I chose that diagonal, because my daddy, he was from Oklahoma, so we called him Daddy. He took over 25,000 photographs of Southwest Colorado. And so that meant a lot to me. And then up in this corner, I found a dinosaur when I was a kid. So I was going from one place to another that meant a lot to me. And I thought, that's great, I've done one diagonal, and I wrote a book about it, which is not yet published. But friends kept saying, well, when are you going to do the other diagonal? This was 732 miles, honey. And the other one's going to be at least the same. But then I got to thinking about it, and I'm not the kind of person who just leaves things halfway done, and it began to feel half done. So this year, despite a pinched nerve in my back, my foot is still partly numb, I started in May up in this corner and began my little wayward zigzag across the state. And in the process of it, I had a mountain lion show up at my tent in mid-August at about 4 in the morning. And at that point, clear down here, I was like, that mountain lion just growled outside my tent. I banged my pot lid against the tent pole. Didn't hear anything else. Went back to sleep. So it was quite an adventure, and my brother had told me I wasn't qualified, and a lot of people told me, are you going to carry a sidearm? And I'm like, man, I got a hand tremor. I'm going to kill everybody around me, other than the intended victim. And people were just like, oh God, you're a woman. How can you do this? Well, on August 30th, a week and a half ago, I made it to the southwest corner. And it was so cool because my best childhood friend, Marjorie, whom I've known since I was 12, joined me, as did my youngest, Fern. And we just sort of danced down the last 100 yards to the southwest corner, and we're going, woo-hoo, woo-hoo! And all these tourists are going, and I said, I made it. I walked an X across Colorado, and I'm sure they were thinking, an X? Is this like X-rated? X? So, this is what my feet drew in 1,479 miles.